She watched her husband with his pregnant mistress, calmly accepted the cruel accusations, and walked away. But what if that heartbreaking surrender was her final, desperate act to save the man she loved, even if it meant he'd hate her forever? The sterile scent of disinfectant, usually a signal of healing, clung to Anya Vance like a shroud, suffocating her. Her delicate frame, already too thin, felt alien against the plush, crimson velvet of the waiting room chair in the exclusive wing of Sterling Memorial Hospital, a wing Liam's family had funded. She knew Liam Sterling would be here. He had a weekly board meeting, a routine she used to manage with the precision of a master clockmaker, ensuring his coffee was brewed just so, his schedule immaculate. Now, that routine was a ghost of a life she could no longer claim. Her eyes, usually mirroring the deep, calm waters of a hidden lake, were clouded with a sorrow she meticulously kept from the surface. Tonight, the familiar ache had begun, a low thrum beneath her ribs, steadily escalating. The system, as she called it, was preparing its nightly torture, a silent countdown to the moment her body would betray her with searing pain, a reminder of the impossible choice she had made. Each pulse of agony was a confirmation of her love, a testament to her vow. Liam must live, even if it meant she had to die, despised and alone. Just then, the double doors swished open. Liam. He moved with the familiar, formidable presence that had once anchored her world. But his gaze, when it found her, was ice. And beside him, radiating a triumphant glow, was Celeste Thorne. Her rounded silhouette was undeniable, a vibrant, undeniable truth. Celeste's hand rested protectively over her swollen belly, her smile sweet, almost saccharine, as she linked arms with Liam. Anya's breath hitched, but her expression remained serene, a mask perfected over months of excruciating practice. She was a master of suppression, of hiding the storm behind placid eyes. Celeste, emboldened by Liam's rigid silence, detached herself from his arm and took a step towards Anya, her high heels clicking like an approaching verdict. Her voice, though soft, carried the cutting edge of a perfectly sharpened blade. "Anya, what a surprise to see you here." Her eyes drifted pointedly to Anya's empty left hand, then to her own stomach. "Liam and I were just for our checkup. The baby is doing wonderfully." The words were a direct hit, intended to wound, to break the calm facade. But Anya only offered a slight, almost imperceptible nod. The system's tendrils began to tighten, a cold constriction around her lungs, anticipating the emotional surge. Liam finally spoke, his voice a low, dangerous rumble that Anya once found comforting, now filled with barely contained contempt. "Anya, I thought we were clear. You have no reason to be here." His words were not a question, but a dismissal, a public disavowal. The gold digger narrative, meticulously crafted and nurtured, was now firmly entrenched. He believed she wanted his money, that she had aborted their child, that she was a parasite. The truth, that she had fabricated it all to save him, was a secret she would carry to her grave. Celeste stepped forward again, her smile widening into something predatory. "Oh, Liam, don't be so harsh. Perhaps Anya just needed a reminder. She hasn't exactly been discreet about her continued presence in your life, despite everything." She turned her full, accusatory gaze on Anya. "Let's be honest, Anya. Everyone knows why you married Liam. For his name, for his fortune. But you've played your hand. You've lost. Liam and I are starting a family. A real family. It's time for you to finally sign the papers and disappear. You got your settlement, didn't you? Or perhaps you're hoping for more." Anya met Celeste's gaze without flinching, a ghost of a mournful acceptance in her eyes that Celeste, blinded by her triumph, misinterpreted as defeat. Inside, a different battle raged. The system pulsed, a dull throb in her temples, warning her of rising stress levels. It demanded emotional suppression, or it would exact a higher price. She had to stay calm, had to maintain the mask. She had pushed him away, meticulously poisoning his perception of her, knowing it was the only way to sever the bond that would inevitably lead to his death. Her heart screamed, a silent cacophony of agony, but her lips remained sealed. She turned her gaze to Liam, seeking a flicker of the man she loved, the boy who had once promised her the stars. There was only cold, hard betrayal. His eyes, once so full of a fierce, possessive love, now held a deep, unyielding resentment. He looked at her as if she were a stain, an unfortunate accident he wished to erase. The thought he hates me, its working asterisk, was a bitter victory that tasted like ash in her mouth. There's nothing left for me here, Anya finally said, her voice a soft murmur, almost lost in the cavernous hallway. It was a half-truth, a veiled confession. There was nothing for her because everything was for him. She didn't look back, didn't allow herself the luxury of a final glance at the man she was sacrificing everything for. Each step she took, away from Liam and his burgeoning new family, was a step closer to her own inevitable end, and to the escalating torment the system promised. The hospital's sterile air suddenly felt heavy, charged with unspoken truths and the tragic silence of a love deliberately, agonizingly destroyed. She walked, each movement a testament to her profound, hidden sacrifice, knowing that the man she adored would forever believe her to be nothing more than a heartless gold digger. The soft murmur of the gala, once a distant hum, now throbbed in Anya's ears like a discordant symphony. She had retreated to a secluded archway, her back to the glittering hall, the pronouncements of Celeste Thorne and Liam Sterling's cold disdain still echoing in the hollow chambers of her chest. Yet her eyes, despite their weariness, were drawn back to the brightly lit stage where the charity auction was now in full swing. A hush fell as the auctioneer presented the night's showpiece, a delicate ruby pendant, nestled on a velvet cushion. Its crimson facets caught the light, gleaming with a silent, profound beauty that stole Anya's breath. Her fingers instinctively rose to her own neck, finding only bare skin. That necklace, the Ruby of Lyra, it wasn't just a gemstone. It was a fragment of their shared childhood, a promise whispered under a starlit sky. Liam, a gangly boy of 10, had found it buried deep in the earth during one of their countless adventures in the Sterling estate's forgotten gardens. He had polished it with painstaking care, then tied it with a scrap of thread, placing it around her neck as they sat on the old stone bench, gazing at the first stars. "When I'm big," he declared, his small hand grasping hers, "I'll give you a real one, Anya, one that shines as bright as your smile, and we'll be together always." He'd meant it with the unwavering conviction of childhood. She had believed him with the boundless trust of a girl in love. Now, years later, that very symbol of their innocent devotion lay before the hungry gaze of the elite. Anya felt a familiar, sickening dread coil in her stomach. "Starting bid, 50,000. The auctioneer announced, his voice booming. Bids flew fast, a flurry of hands and raised paddles. Anya watched, a phantom ache blooming in her chest, knowing, with a certainty that bordered on premonition, what was coming. And then he raised his paddle. Liam. His profile was sharp, illuminated by the stage lights, utterly devoid of the warmth she once knew. His eyes, though, were fixed on Celeste, who beamed up at him, her hand resting delicately on his arm, a silent claim. 200,000. Liam's voice cut through the clamor, steady and resonant. The room fell silent. No one dared challenge the Sterling patriarch. The gavel fell with a final, echoing thud. "Sold, to Mr. Liam Sterling." Celeste's cheer was bright, almost childlike. Liam, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk gracing his lips, took the velvet cushion from the auctioneer. He turned, not even glancing at the scattered faces in the crowd, his focus solely on Celeste. With a slow, deliberate movement that felt like a dagger twisting in Anya's heart, he unclasped the necklace and fastened it around Celeste's neck. The ruby, now nestled against Celeste's creamy skin, pulsed with a cruel, mocking light. Celeste gasped, her hand flying to the jewel, a look of pure delight, almost triumph, on her face. Liam's hand lingered at her nape for a moment longer than necessary, a possessive gesture that publicly reaffirmed his new allegiance. Anya felt a searing pain, a sharp, physical agony that transcended the systemic torments she endured nightly. This was a wound to her soul, a public desecration of their most sacred memory. The ruby, once a beacon of their innocent love, was now a brand, marking Celeste as the legitimate recipient of Liam's affection, and Anya as a forgotten relic. The bitter irony twisted her insides. She had meticulously woven this tapestry of betrayal, yet each thread, now pulled taut, lacerated her own flesh. This, she reminded herself, was the cost. This public humiliation, this wrenching agony, was proof that her plan was working. Liam was moving on. He had to. Flashback. The memory was a corrosive acid, burning away the edges of her composure. She was 20, vibrant, full of a love so potent it felt like a living thing inside her. Liam, then her fiancé, was her universe, her gravity. They were inseparable, their future a tapestry woven with shared dreams. Until the system revealed its cruel paradox. If you successfully complete your mission to make Liam Sterling fall deeply in love with you and return to your world, Liam Sterling will die. The words had reverberated through her very being, a death knell disguised as a choice. Her mission, a cosmic joke, had been too successful. She was too close. The solution, brutally simple, had been to reverse course. Make him hate her. Push him away with such ferocity that he would never look back. Never suffer the ultimate price for her love. The first step had been the hardest, transforming herself into the caricature of a gold digger. It started subtly, with casual remarks about his family's wealth, then escalating to demands for more expensive gifts, a dismissive attitude towards his humble beginnings, and a calculated disinterest in his emotional needs. She watched, horrified, as his initial confusion morphed into disappointment, then into a hurt so profound it made her physically ill. Each barbed word was a self-inflicted wound, each fake demand a betrayal of her own heart. Then came the lie, the poison that would irrevocably sever their bond. His roommate, a kind but unassuming young man named Ethan, had always held a quiet admiration for Anya. She exploited it brutally, expertly. It was a cold, rainy Tuesday when she had called Liam, her voice carefully devoid of emotion, her words rehearsed 100 times. "I slept with Ethan," she'd said, letting the words hang in the air like a death sentence. I needed something more exciting, more immediate. You're too predictable, Liam. And honestly, your money is nice, but it's not enough to make up for your boring nature." The silence on the other end had been deafening, pregnant with unshed tears, unspoken accusations. She could almost feel his world shattering. He hadn't screamed, hadn't raged. Instead, his voice, when it came, was a low, guttural rumble, laced with an ice she had never heard. "Is that what you truly think, Anya? That I'm boring? That my love means so little to you that you'd sleep with my best friend for excitement?" Even then, amidst his fury, the echo of his childhood promise lingered, twisted into a declaration of eternal, if tortured, ownership. It was a testament to a love too fierce to be extinguished, even by her deliberate cruelty. And it only solidified her terrifying conviction. She had to die for him to truly live. The system's grip tightened, each passing hour a new frontier of agony for Anya. Her serene composure, once an impenetrable shield, now felt like a fragile veneer stretched taut over a crumbling form. Nights were a kaleidoscope of electric jolts and searing ice, leaving her muscles screaming, her bones aching with a deep, pervasive cold that no blanket could dispel. The delicate flush of her cheeks, always subtle, had faded to an alarming pallor. Her movements became slow, deliberate, each step a carefully managed exercise in not betraying the firestorm raging within. The nurses, accustomed to Anya's quiet strength, began exchanging worried glances. They saw the increasing tremor in her hands, the sheen of sweat that sometimes beaded on her brow even in cool rooms, the way her eyes, once expressive, now held a constant, distant pain. One morning, Nurse Elena, a woman who had seen too much and felt too little in her career, found Anya slumped against the headboard, eyes wide open but unfocused, a thin trickle of blood from her nose staining the pristine white pillow. Panic, A rare visitor in Elena's composed demeanor, flared. A rapid call to Liam Sterling's office was made, bypassing his assistant, citing extreme urgency. Liam arrived like a storm, his usual sharp suit disheveled, his face a mask of barely contained fury. He stormed into the private ward, his eyes immediately locking onto Anya, who now lay still, hooked up to a drip, her breathing shallow. "What is this? Another one of your theatrics, Anya?" His voice was a low growl, steeped in the bitter suspicion he'd cultivated over months. He saw the four, the monitors, the hushed concern of the medical staff, and instinctively recoiled. It had to be a trick. She was always trying to get his attention, always trying to manipulate him, to pull him back into her orbit, even as she claimed to push him away. The gold digger act, the fabricated affair, the supposed abortion, all a grand scheme, wasn't it? This too must be part of it. A particularly elaborate, cruel part. Dr. Chun, a man of quiet authority, stepped forward. "Mr. Sterling, this is no act. Mrs. Sterling's condition has deteriorated severely. Her internal organs are failing. We've run every test. There's no known illness that explains it. It's as if her body is simply shutting down." Liam scoffed, a harsh, humorless sound. Shutting down? Or shutting off a performance? She's always been good at faking. Tell me, Anya, what's the endgame this time? More money? A more comfortable exit package? He strode to her bedside, his imposing frame casting a shadow over her frail form. He reached out, his fingers brushing her forehead. It was cold, too cold. A flicker of doubt, a tiny pinprick of fear, pierced his resolute anger. But he quickly suppressed it, steeling himself against what he perceived as her inevitable manipulation. Anya stirred, her eyelids fluttering open. Her gaze, though weak, found his, holding an oceanic depth of sorrow he still refused to acknowledge. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. "Liam." Her voice was a wisp of sound, barely audible. "It's real this time." He leaned closer, his jaw tight. "What's real, Anya? Your convenient illness? Your sudden regret?" A dry cough racked her body, and she winced, a genuine spasm of pain that even Liam, hardened by his perceived betrayal, couldn't dismiss. Her eyes welled with tears, not of self-pity, but of profound, unspoken grief. I'm not from this world, Liam," she whispered, the words barely making it past her parched lips. "I was sent here, and now my time is up. I'm dying." The confession hung in the sterile air, a bizarre, unbelievable statement that should have been dismissed outright. Yet, the raw, unadulterated pain in her eyes, the stark truth of her emaciated body, the frantic, worried faces of the doctors and nurses, it all collided, dismantling Liam's carefully constructed wall of skepticism. His face, which had been a granite mask of anger, began to crack, revealing the raw, disbelieving horror beneath. "No," he breathed, the single word a guttural protest. He sank onto the chair beside her bed, gripping her hand, suddenly frantic, his touch gentle despite his earlier fury. Her skin was like ice, her pulse a thready whisper against his thumb. "You're not dying. You can't be. This isn't real." He pulled her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles, a desperate, almost primal gesture. The years of resentment, of orchestrated hatred, seemed to evaporate in the face of this stark, terrifying truth. She might have been a gold digger, a betrayer, but she was his gold digger, his betrayer, the woman who had haunted his every waking moment, the woman he had, in his own twisted way, never stopped loving. The thought of a world without her, even a world where he hated her, was suddenly an unbearable void. "Anya, no. Just tell me it's not true. Tell me you're lying again." His voice was laced with a desperate plea, a stark contrast to the disdain he had shown her for so long. He clung to her hand as if it were the only lifeline left in a rapidly swirling abyss, unable to accept that the end was truly near. The world outside the hospital room, with its clamor of business and the ceaseless demands of Sterling Industries, simply ceased to exist for Liam. Anya's fragile confession, her whispered truths about a dying world and a life slipping away, had shattered the icy fortress around his heart, leaving behind a raw, aching vulnerability. He didn't understand the specifics, couldn't wrap his mind around a system or other realms, but he understood the finality in her eyes. His grip on her hand had tightened, not in anger, but in a desperate attempt to anchor her to him, to this reality, to life itself. But even his formidable will couldn't defy the inevitable. Within days, his office became a relic, his phone a forgotten device. Liam, the man who lived for control and command, relinquished it all for the quiet vigil beside Anya. He arranged for her to return to their old home, a place brimming with ghosts of happier times, now imbued with a somber, precious grace. The sprawling estate, once a testament to their estranged lives, transformed into a sanctuary, silent save for the soft rustle of Anya's movements and the hushed footsteps of nurses. He slept in her room, a cot pulled close to her bed, waking at every shift of her breath, every soft sigh. The cold, indifferent Liam was gone, replaced by a man consumed by a silent, profound grief, a tenderness he hadn't known he possessed. He would read to her stories of far-off lands, his deep voice a soothing balm, his gaze never leaving her face, searching for a flicker of pain, a hint of peace. One crisp morning, as the first tendrils of dawn painted the sky in hues of rose and gold, Liam carried Anya in his arms to the window. Her body, once so vibrant and graceful, felt impossibly light, a testament to the system's relentless toll. He held her close, her head resting on his shoulder, as they watched the sun ascend, burning away the last vestiges of night. "Do you remember this, Liam?" Her voice was a breathy whisper, barely audible against his chest. "Our first sunrise here after you bought this house? You promised we'd watch 1,000 more." He pressed a kiss to her temple, the scent of her, faintly floral and fading, filling him. "And we will, Anya," he murmured, his voice thick with unshed tears. "Just a long-distance relationship across worlds, won't it be?" He tried for a lightness he didn't feel, a desperate attempt to make her last moments not just about loss, but about an enduring connection, an unspoken promise that transcended the veil of death. It was the closest he could come to acknowledging her other world without breaking completely. Her faint smile was his only reply, a quiet affirmation of their shared secret, their shared pain. His breath hitched. He had known this moment was coming, had intellectually accepted it, but hearing her articulate her own resting place tore at the last shreds of his denial. His heart clenched, a vice of ice and fire. He looked at the vibrant expanse, then back at her, her face translucent in the sunlight, a halo of ethereal beauty. He wanted to rage against the injustice, against the cruel fate that had brought them to this, but all that escaped him was a choked sound. "How much time, Anya?" He finally managed, the words tearing from his throat, raw and ragged. The question hung in the air, a heavy, irreversible surrender to the inevitable. His eyes, once so sharp and unforgiving, were now filled with an ocean of despair, finally, utterly broken. He accepted her truth, his denial finally shattered, but the acceptance offered no solace, only the cold, hard weight of a grief that promised to be lifelong.